Hello and welcome to episode 18 of FilmStop. Today I'm going to be talking about the content that I've been consuming for the past couple of months and highly recommend you to watch as well. I'm going to be breaking this down into Hindi and English, but basically covering three main categories. TV series that you can find online on video on demand, a movie that you can find in the theaters, and a movie that you can find on video on demand but is highly underrated and should be watched like today. But before we do that, you know the drill. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, rate, review, all of those things. It really helps, and I know you like the show. If you're listening to the 18th episode, then there must be something, right? If there isn't, then give me some constructive criticism because I probably need it. And to get us going, welcome our guest. No one. It's just me this time. Yeah, I thought I'll do this one alone. I know you guys really like the episodes with guests on, but I'm not that bad. Okay, so I'll try to keep you interested and intrigued. I couldn't find any of my friends to join me this time, but also I just wanted to have a quick, intimate chat with you and explain to you and pitch these movies to you, also TV shows, and explain to you why you should watch them like ASAP. So let's talk about English content. We're going to start with TV series. I couldn't pick just one, so I had to pick three TV shows that I highly recommend at this point for you to go watch. And it's interesting because once I was going through the list of these names that I've picked, I really found a very macabre sort of sadistic sort of theme with a thread between all three of them, but I really enjoyed all three of them. So I'm going to start with Sinner. So Sinner is a thriller that I think a lot of people may have already heard of, but this one is a thriller that stars Jessica Biel and Bill Pullman, and is really just a anthology mystery drama that unfolds. At least the season one unfolds with Jessica Biel's character murdering uh, a man randomly on the beach with what seems like is no reason out of nowhere why this woman who is a mother of a child and a happy family in a happy family, and that's kind of where the plot takes up. And I've given off no spoilers because that's in the trailer. And I just want to say that it's a show that as it sort of unravels, you're just left completely baffled. And there is a there are many gut wrenching moments in the show, and it really kind of pulls at you. And there are some sequences which may get you if you're squeamish, but I really recommend watching it, even if you watch it with sort of one eye shut, because it's a show that demands attention, and it's sort of covering so many different topics that I don't want to get into the topics because I think it'll be spoiler filled then, but it just is a show that really gets you to think from many different levels. And of course, Jessica Biel's performance is just mind blowing. It's out of the world, and it's one that once you watch it, when you watch it to the end, you kind of put these layers of emotions back together and realize how deep she must have had to go to really surface those and surface them in points in time when it doesn't really make sense for the character as the story is progressing. And I know what I'm saying probably does not make a lot of sense to you, but I assure you when you watch it, it will, and I think you will really appreciate the performance and the show. Okay, so moving on to the next show that I highly recommend, and Sinner, by the way, like I mentioned, is available on Netflix, so you can watch at least the first season there. Then the second show that I want to mention is Barry. So Barry is actually slightly different in the sense that it's from a genre perspective, it's a comedy. It's a show that you will find on HBO, and I am surprised that not enough people are talking about it. It's a show that stars Bill Hader, Sarah Goldberg, Henry Winkler, Anthony Carrigan, And all four of these, I can't tell you how amazing they are in their respective characters. Especially, we all know Bill Hader is really funny, but Anthony Carrigan, he he is a revelation for me at least, as this very as this Czech. I want to say mafioso, but he's not really. His name is NoHo Hank, and he really gets into his character, the skin of his character, like I haven't seen a lot of people in comedy do before. So the quick synopsis of the show is that it's basically about Bill Hader's character, who is actually a hitman, who's a low-level sort of hitman, but he is also highly depressed and walks into a acting class where he essentially is trying to evade something that is happening outside in his real world where he is a hitman. But he walks into this acting class, and all of a sudden he finds this spiritual connect that he has not found with anything else, not even with being a I'm not going to say that, but he finds his place, he finds his people, and he decides that he wants to live the life of an actor. That's all I'm going to say. And watch the show, and I assure you it will crack you up. But what cracks me up with that show is how dark it is, and yet it's got this melancholic tone. It's dark, yet it's ridiculously funny, and it's kind of funny where you're not going to be like holding your stomach and rolling over on the couch, but it's just really it's dark, quirky comedy that is, if you're a fan of that, then I highly recommend watching that show. The third show, and this is the last English show that I would recommend, is Big Little Lies. So I've never really talked about my love for Big Little Lies, but it's one of those shows that when it came out, it was pretty much my favorite for the entire year. And Jean-Marc Vallée, who directed the first season, is well, he became one of my favorite TV directors, and then he made Sharp Objects right after, which was last year, and that was again one of my favorites from last year. So if you haven't watched that one too, I highly recommend it. This one too is on HBO. So what? So Big Little Lies, if you don't already know, stars huge bigwigs. So there's Shailene Woodley, there's Nicole Kidman, there's Reese Witherspoon, there's Laura Dern, there's Zoe Kravitz, Alexander Skarsgård in the first one, Adam Scott. They're all these people, and each one of them is, let me tell you guys, you haven't seen them in these colors. Uh, I think that Reese Witherspoon was born to play this character. I think that Laura Dern was again born to play this character, and Nicole Kidman, as I don't want to say much again, but like Nicole Kidman as the character that she plays opposite Alexander Skarsgård is the most devastating thing that I have seen as a portrayal of a woman in a marriage that I have seen in a very long time. And so that's all I'm going to say. It's a show that revolves around a couple of um, really rich, well-to-do white women, with the exception of Zoe Kravitz. But basically, rich, well-to-do white women who are living in Monterey Bay in California, and they are all sort of fighting not only inner demons, but also this external outlier that comes into the picture when Shailene Woodley's character actually moves to this area and is confronted with a past that she was trying to bury deep within, and realizes how that past is connected with all these women. And this too, it kind of borders on drama and mystery slash thriller. So I would highly recommend it if you're in the mood for something that is um, gloomy is the word that comes to me, mainly because I think just the way they've shot the portions in California. It's just I think it's not the usual kind of California that you see. I think you see these happy homes, but you don't see them in the happy light that most happy homes are shown in movies with like the sunlight and all that stuff. It's very gloomy, the whole show. So if you're feeling gray, then watch the show and definitely get ready for the second season, which actually the first episode just dropped 2 days ago. And guess what? Like you needed another actor, actress. Meryl Streep joined the cast. She is in it, and guys, you are not prepared for how amazing she is in the first episode. That's all I'm gonna say. Watch the show. Okay, we're done with TV shows in English. We're gonna move on to a movie that is in the theaters right now that I have been swooning over since I watched it, and just want to mention that if you're an Elton John fan and you haven't watched this movie, then man, something's wrong with you. Yeah, of course, I'm talking about Rocket Man. Rocket Man is the newest venture in the partnership of Dexter Fletcher and Taron Egerton. Egerton. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce his name, but I should learn because he is the next hugest star you could ever think of. Because this dude is here to stay. You have seen him, of course, in Kingsman 1 and 2, but you've also seen him in Eddie the Eagle, which, too, was directed by Dexter Fletcher. I'm just going to say that I think Dexter Fletcher and Taron Egerton's partnership is the new thing in Hollywood that has me really excited. I'm really excited to see what they do next, how they do it, and of course, I have always been a huge fan of Matthew Vaughn, but this this partnership, Dexter Fletcher and Taron Egerton, is something to prepare for. So the movie itself, Rocket Man, it's a biopic, but it's not the usual kind. And I know most people talk about biopics in a similar way, but it's a movie that borders on musical, fantasy, and biography slash drama. It it really juggles these different genres so beautifully that it's hard to pick one for the movie. And Taron Egerton's portrayal of Elton John, and admittedly, I'm not the biggest fan of Elton John. I didn't know about all his tracks before going into the movie, but the way he's portrayed Elton John is that he's given him a humanity, he's given him a perspective that is wholly original to Elton John, and I love that about the way the movie is directed too, because it's not and written, but it's not written or directed in a way that is stylistically the same as any other biopic that you've ever seen. And I say that because people are going to draw comparisons to Bohemian Rhapsody and others in the past, but the distinct difference between this one and Bohemian, at least Rhapsody, is that this one has a very strong personality. Like Elton John's personality, it seems like, is a very strong personality in itself, but the movie does a very good job, or equally good job, bringing that personality to the forefront. It it's really truly Elton John's movie. You know, you can't take this and make it another singer performance. You know, you can't put Ed Sheeran there and make this movie his by kind of tweaking small things here and there, because this movie is wholly Elton John. Like his character really shines through. That to me is something that was lacking with Bohemian Rhapsody. It almost felt as if this is the movie that Bohemian Rhapsody wanted to be, but fell short of. And the thing is, like, apart from, if you take Rami Malek out of Bohemian Rhapsody, you are really not left with uh, anything that remains that tells you much about uh, the band Queen and its personality. It's and I'm treading steps here because people might come back and say that, you know what, you can't put any band over there in that movie either, because that music is so key to Bohemian Rhapsody, or sorry, yeah, Bohemian Rhapsody the movie. And I agree with that, but I think that you could have just listened to the album and you would have been equally happy if that was the case. I just feel that that movie is um, too much of a fan service and is not willing to take any risks, actually, to put forward what Queen may have actually been about, which is taking those risks, if that makes any sense. And on the other hand, with this one, you get not only do you get these really strong performances that are unabashed, you also get a movie that is not afraid to be something more than an entertainer. It's making a statement, and it's not afraid of that. And that's it. It makes you really um, connect with the movie on a different level. Let's just say I'm gonna be really mad if this movie does not get nominated for an Oscar, and if Taron Egerton does not win an Oscar. Enough said. You have to go and watch this movie for what it is, and I'm sure you will appreciate it. Okay. Now, moving down to our third category for English content that I would recommend, and that is a movie that you may not have watched and is out there for you to consume. So, I'm going to cheat a little bit. This is not a movie, this is a documentary, which theoretically is still a movie. It is long enough to be a movie, so you know what? If you're going into it, it's actually really long, but it's available on HBO. So the name of the movie or documentary, I guess, is Inventor Out for Blood in Silicon Valley. So the documentary follows Elizabeth Holmes, who became the world's youngest self-made billionaire and was heralded the next Steve Jobs as she founded a multi-billion-dollar healthcare company called Theranos. So the idea of the company was that you could take an entire lab that runs blood tests and fit it into a printer-sized shaped box that you need to feed maybe a coin-sized cartridge of blood into, and it will run over 200 tests for you. And so, even though all of that sounds great, everything goes to shit. Excuse my language. And that's what the documentary is about. And that's why it's so intriguing and interesting, because it's really a study of um, the relationship between being a pathological liar and a successful entrepreneur, especially in Silicon Valley, where most of these quote unquote entrepreneurs are selling vaporware, and investors who are foaming on the mouth to put in their money into the next Google or Facebook or Uber, what have you. So it's a very interesting study and interesting watch, and especially if these um, somewhat psychological studies in human behavior really intrigue you. I highly recommend it, and I think if nothing else, you would at least come out with a ton of knowledge of how screwed up the startup space, in at least in Silicon Valley and the healthcare industry is at this very moment. Okay, so we're going to move on now to Hindi content. Just to recap, we went over three specific series: Sinner, Barry, and Big Little Lies. We talked a little bit about a movie that's in the theaters that you should try and catch, Rocketman, and a documentary that is available on HBO called Inventor. With that, we're going to move into the Hindi section right after this short break. All right, so welcome back, and thanks for sticking around with us. We're going to start off with a Hindi movie that you need to watch. And full disclosure, I'm actually not going to be doing a Hindi movie that is in the theaters that you need to watch, because there isn't one that is out there right now that I would highly, highly recommend. I know Bharat is out there and Student of the Year 2 is out there, but you're better off not watching them. Instead, just go watch Rocketman twice. I promise you. Or actually watch Aladdin. Yeah, Aladdin is pretty good too. So you have a lot of other options. Do not watch any of the Hindi movies right now that are out there. Wait a couple more weeks, because there's good stuff. There's really good stuff that's scheduled to release pretty soon. All right, so a movie that you need to watch that is actually available on Google Play, so you can purchase it right now, is this little movie that came out, I think 2018. Actually, it originally released in 2014, but it only saw the light of day by 2018. And the original release, I mean, it went into film festivals in 2014. So the name of the movie is Court. It's both. It's actually not just bilingual. It's like trilingual. It's English, Hindi, Marathi, but it's really based on the story of a social activist who uses folk music to spread his message. And especially when he is arrested and accused of inciting a sewage worker's suicide. So the story follows, or actually, the movie follows three different storylines. It follows the storyline of this main social activist, also lawyers from both sides of the aisle, and their lives and how those are affecting them. I'm not going to say pick sides, but fight the battle that they're fighting, whether it's internal, external, or or you want to put it in the terms of household versus society. And it really dives deep into and scrutinizes the legal system and the clusterfuck that is India's legal system at this very moment. The movie is sad, dramatic, funny, dark, all at the same time, and it does so with a very realistic flair. I really want to, make a shout out to the director Chaitanya Tamhane, who takes meticulous effort in putting together scenes and sequences that are so lived in and so real that the fabric feels like you're right there. Like you can, reach out and feel it. Uh, all those courtroom sequences are very well written, very well performed, but equally well directed and shot. There's this very interesting thing that you'll notice is that almost all of the shots when they're setting up or establishing a new location, or when it's bringing you into a location, it's done from the corner vantage point that moves like sort of left to right and is static in one position, kind of giving you a very fly on the wall sort of feeling where you're just watching as this is happening, as action A is moving to action B, or person A is moving to point A, from point A to point B, and that's what makes the movie so believable to me. And besides all of that, I think there is something to be said about how we are really missing content like this in Bollywood right now that paints a picture that is apolitical, that is I won't say patriotic, but it's patriotic to me in the sense that it's putting forward what are some of our flaws in order for us to understand them and deeply care for them to fix them. It's to me, jingoism does not make for good patriotic cinema. Movies like these, where in the time of Uri and Narendra Modi and Accidental Prime Minister and all these movies, in the time of these movies, this movie really gives me a sense of what real India is. And if I don't know what like certain things, how wrong they are right now, how the hell am I gonna clean it up, or how the hell am I gonna do things that help other people clean it up or empower people clean it up? That's the kind of patriotism that I like to watch in my movies and art. And I think that's what this movie achieves and does so flawlessly. So, with that, I'm going to move into the final chapter of this episode, which is the Hindi series that you need to watch. And there's nothing new here. I have already mentioned to you two shows that you need to watch, and I've done detailed, in depth reviews of those two shows: Made in Heaven and Delhi Crime. Once again, Made in Heaven is the story of two young entrepreneurs who are running a wedding planning startup, and their experiences as they go about planning weddings for different people. So every episode is a different story with a different family or couple that they're planning a wedding for, all alongside their own internal, whether it's household or just internal battles that they're fighting. So I really recommend that show because it's so well written and so freshly performed, and you have a great set of directors directing the show. The last one that I want to recommend, which again I have recommended previously and I've reviewed previously, is Delhi Crime. Delhi Crime is the show that probably is going to remain my most favorite show of the year for the rest of the year. Not because of anything else, but simply how it made me feel and how much it took out of me, but also gave to me as a piece of art. So the show is again based on a Delhi gang rape case that the the police investigation took about 5 to 6 days on, and it follows very closely that investigation into the finding of the men who perpetrated the crime. So, with that, we come to the end of all our recommendations, and I'm just going to go through them again. In English, we had The Sinner, Barry, Big Little Lies, Rocket Man, and Inventor. And in Hindi, we had Delhi Crime, Made in Heaven, and Court. I know it sounds a lot more lopsided towards English content, but I think that it's just a function of the kind of content that has been coming out in the theaters with Bollywood cinema. And I will be honest, I have not been consuming a lot of South Indian movies in the past few months, and I need to catch up on that. So, if you have any other recommendations for me, let me know. I will catch up on them and then maybe even do a review on them. But these are the ones that have lately caught my eye and attention, and I'm currently watching Chernobyl, which is really intriguing me, and there's a good chance I might come back and talk about that. But apart from that, there's some really cool episodes that I'm planning, and some really cool guests that I'm planning to get on the show, and I hope to have you here with me as we go through those episodes too. So, until next time, thank you guys, and please do not forget to like, share, subscribe, rate, review, comment wherever you're getting this feed. Thanks again, guys.